All right, artificial intelligence, man. This thing is running crazy, and we can't keep up. Artificial intelligence, by the way, it's the decade's new tech buzzword. And there's already over 11,000, and this is probably dated. There's probably more than that now. This is a couple of years old, I think. 11,000 U.S. patent applications in AI-related areas that have been published in the last couple of years. It's nuts. And now Congress is deciding, well, do we need to change the patent law in this country because U.S. law allows patents to be issued only to human inventors. There's going to be all kinds of copyright issues about this, too, in terms of music. We talked about this some with the Beatles and this so-called new Beatles song that's being created from a John Lennon demo from the late 70s using artificial intelligence technology. So we have called on the patent professor, that is John Rizvi, who is joining us now. He is an adjunct professor of patent law at Nova Southeastern Law School in Florida. He's written 2 books on patents, and he's got a blog, and he'll tell you he knows everything there is to know about patents. So we're going to ask John about all of this. The patent professor, Professor Rizvi, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here. It's funny you say I know everything there is to know, but with AI, it's never ending, right? It's constantly new changes.
Well, AI doesn't create or invent something on its own entirely, right? I got to request it. Do I have to feed it? Maybe I don't have to feed it any information, but I at least have to lay out the parameters for artificial intelligence, don't I? Artificial intelligence just all by itself doesn't create a brand new drug, does it?
It doesn't, and that's where the debate comes in. I mean, some people are arguing that AI or artificial intelligence is just a new tool, kind of like a camera would be for a photographer. Now photographs are copyrightable. Way back in 1884, the Supreme Court held that, yes, the camera is taking the picture, but the photographer has a lot of input, the lighting, the angle, the sunlight, whatever. So that input is making the photographer, the human being, the author. And a painter uses a paintbrush. No one's claiming that the paintbrush is the author, but there's something about AI that's really different. It's not, it's a lot more work than what the paintbrush is doing, right? You simply give it a prompt, and it will create the final graphic based on that prompt, and that's what makes it a more difficult decision of is it simply a tool, and the human being is the author in charge, or as some proponents claiming that AI should actually be permitted to be the inventor, is the machine capable of being a patent holder and the inventor under U.S. patent law? And currently the law says no.
Why would I want to relinquish the control of the patent to a machine? Why would I want to do that? It seems to me I might be denying myself of some of the rewards should my invention or my creation strike gold. Why would I want to give the credit or give the patent to some machine or to artificial intelligence in the first place?
Yeah, excellent question. I mean, I don't know if there's a strategy behind it. Like, clearly, when patents are sought to be invalidated and when they're litigated, when you have a human inventor, you can cross-examine them in court. You can take their deposition. You can do all sorts of things. What do you do with a program? When the program's an inventor, it brings all sorts of novel new questions that haven't even been addressed yet. Not to mention, how does a computer give permission to someone to file the application on its behalf? There's an applicant and there's an inventor. If the inventor is a computer, you have to get consent. How does a computer consent?
Right, exactly. And then also, too, the way I understand it, now it may change. I'm sure this AI thing is developing, evolving, improving every day. I mean, we are building basically a Frankenstein monster that may destroy us all, but that's another story, I guess, for another day. But my understanding, John, is that AI draws from data that has already been produced. My understanding with a patent is you got to do a lot of research to ensure that your invention, that no portion of your invention has been either inadvertently or on purpose copied, that you're copying something else. You see what I'm saying? If AI is drawing from already existing data or already existing principles or already existing inventions to come up with something new, can it get a patent for that? If maybe it can. I don't know. You tell me.
So the answer is yes. If it was a human being, the answer is yes, and that's because most patents, and a lot of people don't know this, it's a big surprise. There's a myth out there that in order to get a patent, you have to develop something completely new, but combinations of existing ideas that have never been combined before, and if the combination provides a new result, then that new result can certainly be patentable. You may remember years ago that the commercial for for Kit Kat, right? Like peanut butter and chocolate separately, they've been around forever. You combine them, now you have maybe a new, unique result, and that's what makes it different. So yes, AI does draw from everything that's been done before. It's got this database of billions of documents. However, if it takes part A from one document, part B from another, part C from a third, combines all three elements into a Frankenstein, as if you would say, right? Like different parts combined into one, that it may have sufficient novelty to qualify for a patent. And what's preventing it is that it's not human. You have to be a human inventor in order to get a patent. The last time we've seen it's been a few years, but I don't know if you remember that monkey selfie case where a photographer's cell phone was taken by monkeys, and they took selfies of themselves. Those selfie photographs became extremely valuable and went viral. The owner of the cell phone applied for a copyright and was denied because the creativity in this case, the monkey took the selfie, and a monkey is not a human being and not entitled to a copyright. And patents work the same way. So, so if a monkey's not entitled to file for a copyright or a patent, then certainly a robot is not either.
Would AI as an inventor have to be more transparent about the invention or the discovery? Maybe that's getting ahead of things, since we don't, again, look at anything other than a human as being someone that can hold a patent. But would there be more scrutiny with AI as an inventor, do you think?
Well, I think if when an inventor files for an application, if they disclose that they utilized AI, in that case, I don't think there would be any issue. The inventor would be, the human being would still be the inventor. There's nothing wrong with using a tool to help with creating an invention, no different than using for copyright. So no different than a painter using a paintbrush. The problem with some of these later cases is that people are filing the patent, naming the computer as the inventor. That would be like a painter filing for a copyright on a painting and saying the paintbrush is the author. No, the paintbrush is not the author. It's a tool, and AI is also a tool. But perhaps a much more sophisticated, powerful tool than we've ever had in the past. But in the end, it's still a tool and still requires human judgment to enter the prompt and to decide what goes, the input still comes from a human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I mean. Again, if you're going to use AI is not inventing or developing these discoveries by themselves. They have some assistance from a human. John Rizvi is our guest. He's the patent professor, and we're talking about whether AI should have the power of the patent. Now, John, there are some countries, as you know, I know South Africa for one, that does offer a patent for the products with artificial intelligence systems listed as the inventor. Is this a worry, do you think, on Capitol Hill or among our lawmakers here that, well, we better make AI a patent holder, because if we don't, then innovation may move from the United States and go offshore someplace else?
Yeah, that 100%. I think that's a big part of why Congress is having hearings on this. The concern is, as just as you mentioned, if an inventor says, well, you know what, if I file for a patent in the United States under the name of with AI as the inventor, it's not going to be granted. So I'm going to go and file in South Africa, where we don't know ultimately what the courts are going to do there, but certainly there has been a granted patent to a computer program as the inventor in South Africa. So that's a concern. We don't want to incentivize U.S. inventors to start filing their patents overseas in order to get patent protection instead of filing them in the United States. But I personally don't understand why one would list the computer or AI as the inventor instead of listing yourself and that being the tool that happens to be used.
Maybe
different, like a chisel for a sculptor. The chisel is not not the sculptor.
No, and the chisel can't do it without the human sculptor holding the chisel and applying it and putting it in the place where it needs to be. Now, maybe these big companies like an Apple or a Tesla, I did Tesla and some of these auto companies, for instance, trying to develop these self-driving cars. They're using a whole lot of artificial intelligence to try to get a leg up on their competition and come up with these autonomous vehicles. Maybe as long as it's sold or marketed under the Tesla name or the Apple name, the name of a big company, they may not care as much who holds the patent. Let me ask you one last thing, John, and I don't know. Again, maybe this is going to have to be spelled out in whatever legislation comes from this. But about patent protections, we all know, for instance, with new prescription drugs, the patent for that drug is protected for a certain number of years, where you can't have a generic version, where the drug company that developed the drug has basically exclusive rights to sell and make their money back, all that R&D they spent. They have the exclusive right to sell that particular drug that they had patented for a period of time before anybody else can try to compete against them or create a generic brand. Would AI patent holders weaken that protection, do you think?
Well, it certainly depends on whether Congress decides to try to pass new laws that maybe make a different category, perhaps shorter protection. There's a lot of concern about how they're going to address this. Are they going to come up with some kind of percentage that an invention has to be at least 7% invented by a human being? Or some percentage that in order to qualify, and if it's 100% machine created, it's not protectable. I don't know. These are tough decisions. I think the courts have had to address this before. Anytime a new technology comes along, there's a lot of people that say, oh no, this is completely different, but somehow, and that's what, when the camera was invented, that was a concern. Like until then, you wanted a picture of a landscape or a self-portrait, you'd hire a painter. And now that the camera is doing the work, the concern was, well, who's the author of a photograph? And the court made it clear that the camera is a tool. The author is still the person taking the photograph, the photographer. And I don't think AI should change that. It's no different. It's certainly an incredibly sophisticated tool, but it can, as you said it best, it cannot operate without human involvement. At least not yet.
Not yet. John Rizvi, the patent professor. John, how can people access your blog?
Yeah, so we're at thepatentprofessor.com. That's our website. But anywhere on social media, our handle is The Patent Professor. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Just type in the Patent Professor, and you'll find us. The blog's on our website, thepatentprofessor.com.
Excellent. John, great talking to you. Thank you for being on the program today and sharing your expertise on this.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Rizvi, the patent professor.